saying that economists have a vested interest in capitalism as it currently operates. Well, yeah, but he says today
That's because they got rid of all the communists, Marxists, leftists, and anyone who wasn't on the capitalistic agenda in the 50s. Um, Economics was, well, the humanities in general tended to be a haven for more leftward thinking. One of the reasons why that movie with Robin Williams, The Dead Poet Society, um, why he got fired when he had such trouble with the administration is, and people kind of forget this, is that education and all this type of thing used to be actually very conservative. Um, and in the 1950s, following the war, as the Cold War came on, and as the fear of a communist or red revolution in the United States, which had there was a fear of that in the 20s and in the interwar years, and it kind of was delayed by the World War II, became even more prevalent. You had this sort of red scare of the 50s. Now, McCarthyism is the ism we created to describe that, and he's the most famous for trying to clean communists out of the federal government, sort of thing. Um, but the reality is, there were lots of places, particularly in higher education, where those who had come into the institutions in maybe earlier in the century, whatever have you, and had, leftist views, Marxist views, and it was sort of accepted as, yes, that's another point of scholarly review and all this sort of thing. In the 50s, they were summarily thrown out. Now, people would say, well, how did education get so liberal in the 60s? Because it was a reaction to that. Still, even to this day, you will be hard pressed to find any true Marxist leftists in the upper echelons of academia who are writing books about, especially economics. Um, Once the Austrian school with von Hayek, the Chicago school with Milton Friedman came into power, Keynesianism was out. A lot of left wing economics kind of went with all that, and there were very few leftists left to support that. Even now, and you will have Marxist academics, there are very, very few of them, but you'll find them from time to time. They tend to be on the fridge. Even pop philosophy like Slavoj Žižek. There's like one of him, if I remember in the debate with Jordan Peterson, he was, there's these communists in academia. He's like, where are they? He's like, I'm not even that much of a communist, and I'm known for being the communist academic. They're just not, that leftist presence, that anti-capitalist presence just isn't there in econ or most of academia. I remember in the 2010s when Thomas Piketty came out with his book on capitalism. I ran not walked to the bookstore to read it. But people had news stories written at the time, and I'd also realized I had gone through 6 years in four and a half of higher education and taken econ. I'd never, we'd never talked about capitalism as a subject or something to be studied. I was amazed when I first did my research into my essay, Capitalism, How We the People Became We the Corporation, in my book, What the Hell is Going On, new edition out this fall. I was surprised at how little there was on capitalism as a concept, as an idea. It was just taken as a given. That's how the world works. Communism fell apart in 91, tried that, no one likes that, that was it, capitalism victorious, and people never, and there's, was very, the only critique of capitalism was coming from the far left, from socialists, from communists, and there were very few of them in American academia, even European academia. There were very few, and so there wasn't this large body of work to engage with, and so Piketty really, I mean, kind of saw market opportunity to write a book about something no one else was really talking about and critiquing about it and talking about how it works. And the video I stitched, you should definitely go look at because he talks about the areas in which economics has overlooked power and power dynamics and relationships and power over governments and all this type of thing in praising of the free market. That was actually by design. There was a concerted effort by the Federalist Society, John Birch Society, and others who were passionate about anti-communism in the 50s to kind of call out and get rid of anyone who might have been a communist in the name of national security for the Cold War. That's why McCarthy is remembered for kind of leading this witch hunt of trying to find communists in the government. But the reality is it was everywhere. Even in the 50s, even in Hollywood in the 50s, there was this whole Red Scare anti-communist thing. There was a really great movie with Helen Mirren called Trumbo, about blacklisted Hollywood writers who were considered to too far left. Even things like the Hays Code were a result of conservatives in the middle of the country wanting Hollywood to be more conservative in its images and have, less sex and less violence um and all of this sort of thing. So, yeah, there's a reason why modern economics hasn't looked at this stuff. And there's a reason why there's kind of this huge blind spot around, is capitalism really the best system? Are there alternatives in economics, in academia? Because the people who normally would have countered that got drummed out of the core, and even, and the few that are left tend to not have the powering or the gravitas and be in the big departments, the big department heads to say, yes, there's another way of doing this. We do not have to organize our society in this way. And only in the last 10, 15 years have we started to question our economic system critically. And Piketty started it, and I've been doing it, other people have been doing it, all this sort of thing. But now we're finally having the proper conversation. I think there's not a big violent threat behind it because of the Cold War. We now can start to have those conversations. So yeah, econ has a long way to go to understand our economic system, how it affects us, and how it affects our lives. And so if you want some more info on that, my book's available this fall.